Hey, it's 6:38. I'd like to call this meeting to order. So this is a combined meeting, two committees of the whole, meeting in with one agenda. And so it's the Administration and Finance Committee, and as well the Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities Committee. And the chair of the Administration and Finance Committee will run through items up to 7D. And then the chair of the Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities Committee will run through the remaining action and information items. So the date is Monday, August the 8th, and we are calling the meeting to order a few minutes late. My apologies. We were in a meeting at 5 o'clock that ran a little tiny bit over its scheduled time, and we did need a little bit of a break in between the two meetings. So those few words of introduction, I'm calling for approval of the agenda of the joint meeting. And I don't know how we're doing this. I don't have a list. So does someone have the motion to approve the agenda?
No, we just call for it.
Just call for approvals, okay? Need a mover and a seconder too. Okay, Deputy Mayor Deschamps moving. Does he have a seconder?
I'll second.
And Councillor Cameron's, excuse me, Councillor Deschamps, Dillaba, seconded. And those in favor? Motion is carried. And now I'm moving to item number 3, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest here this evening? Chair registers no disclosures, and the minutes will so reflect. Item number 4 on the agenda is business arising from previous committee of the whole meeting minutes. Does anyone have any business arising? And the minutes of those meetings were included in the package here. And I would like to just bring one business arising up myself. And that is on page 13 of 211. And on page 13 of 211, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting for Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities meeting of July the 18th, we had an item there that related to Armstrong Road. And I just want to say to council and staff that in the interim period of time since this meeting on July the 18th, I've been somewhat worried about the decision that we took that's recorded on page 13 of 211. And I don't know whether people may have had second thoughts or not, but I certainly have, and I just want to register those thoughts that I would certainly be amenable to revisiting that issue. I'm just going to let it sit at that. I've brought it up and I'll see where it goes from there, if anyways. And I see no other business arising from the previous committee meetings, so I'm going to move on. Item number 5 on the agenda is delegations and presentations. We have none this evening. And so I'm going to item number 6. And 6A is a discussion item of the Youth Citizen of the Year criteria. And I just want to recognize that Ms. Savi McIntyre, who originally generated discussion on this item, is with us tonight, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here. And as well, thank you for putting forward the concept. And as you know from our various text messages, which are far between, we have had some initial discussions, and we did come to a decision at the Admin Finance Committee meeting, or one of the previous meetings. We did come to a consensus that we would proceed to call for a citizen of the youth citizen of the year at the high school age. So in our package tonight, and I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to look at the package you have. And I know from your email this afternoon, you had a talk with our clerk. So in our package tonight, the clerk has put together some criteria for a possible nomination. And so I just want to open the floor for discussion. There is a briefing note in the package going. Well, basically, it's just page 15 to 11. And I don't see a recommendation coming out of this, but I think what you're doing is just putting forward the criteria to execute on the decision that was made at the previous meeting. So the floor is open for discussion here. If the council has questions of the clerk, or we'll deviate a little bit from protocol if you have any questions for Mrs. McIntyre. Any discussion whatsoever? So Deputy Mayor.
Question to staff, certainly in favor of moving this forward. What do we need so that we can get this set up and done to get it done by September? I mean, we're start of August. Now we only have 2 council meetings before that date. So how do we get there?
So through the chair, we already have a basic nomination form prepared, as well as Ms. McIntyre has made the recommendations / suggestion to incorporate some type of video audio nomination. I always have prepared statement prepared for the social media website, as well as our 2 local newspapers that would be advertised in, where we circulate the option of doing submissions either way. And then hopefully get as many candidates as possible circulated to the schools in the local area that have different citizens in it / now students, youth, that we can hopefully gather some individuals that may be able to be nominated for. But we are expediting the process due to the election cycle and the term of council being shortened this time around compared to the previous term, I think in December. I think it's doable. It'll just be a little bit tighter squeeze, but we do have the social media campaigning and the local newspapers available to us as well, and citizens to check in it.
So just to follow up, so I don't believe that we've passed a recommendation or a resolution at the council level. We did it at committee level. Do we need to do anything at council level to recognize the 12 to 17-year-old citizens of the year?
Through the chair, it could just be a general consensus. It could be a simple motion coming forward. I would just put this on as a discussion item because we hadn't discussed what type of criteria you guys were looking for at this point. So I didn't want to make it an actionable item until you guys were able to review it.
And just quoting from the briefing note, there was consensus of the committee to incorporate the youth award 12 to 17 age range. So going back to the deputy mayor's concept, should we bring a motion forward? Could we bring a motion forward? We'll meet again in 2 weeks' time, I think.
Through the chair, if you guys are accepting of the criteria that is outlined at the suggested shortened time frame, then by all means a recommendation can be made, and we'll put it on the council agenda for August 22nd, and then I can execute and do the advertising by the end of August.
And I think you want in the briefing note, you'd like to close the nominations by September the 30th.
Through the chair, that would be ideal to give us enough wiggle room in case I do need to extend it out, and that way we're able to do the award before the term of council wraps up.
Okay. All right, any further discussion here? You can see the direction of, go ahead, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like one question to Ms. McIntyre, if I may, is
Through the chair.
through the chair to Ms. McIntyre is about the video. What is the plans of the video? Did you give me a little insight on it?
So my recommendation would be to make nominations through videos. To make recommendations through video. It's a great way for our youth to be recognized by their peers, by their families, by their neighbors. What you can use with those videos is turn it into its own promotional campaign, right? So over the, say, hypothetically, you get 10 nominations. Over the course of 5 weeks, you could promote 2 of the nomination videos through your social media and website and just celebrate some of the great youth that we have in our community. It's an ongoing thing to celebrate kids, to encourage them to keep being great contributors to our communities. As well, it's a great way for neighbors to recognize youth in our community. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Are you anticipating that these would be self-nomination videos?
So for example, I want to recognize John down the street. I create a video and say, John's an incredible youth. I really want to recognize him because you know what? I saw him cutting the lawn of our neighbors the other day, and I think he deserves to be nominated as Youth of the Year. And so you could use my video. Obviously, there need to be consent forms and things like that by both parties. But that video could go out on social media and say, hey, not only do we have great youth in our community, but we've got adults or peers who are willing to recognize youth in our community.
So in that case, the individual would know not only that he's being nominated, but who has nominated him.
Yes.
Now, I think that deviates a little bit from the way we've done things in the past, has it not? Because with Citizen of the Year, I don't think people know that they're being nominated, nor do they know who's nominated.
Through the chair, it's usually kept confidential until the time of the celebration / award. At that point in time, the person being nominated is brought in, as we do, as well as the nominator. But all other nominations we have kept confidential in case there is some type of conflict or somebody isn't actually interested in being in the spotlight. That has been a concern in the past as well for certain individuals. Also, in case there is certain times where we haven't received any nominations, where we sometimes draw from previous years.
So we're a little bit touchy about the sensitivities of personalities. And that's one of the reasons that in our Citizen of the Year, we've kept it both the nominations and the nominator kept it confidential, and then council makes the decision in a closed meeting as well.
If I could make a suggestion, and I hear those concerns and understand them, perhaps it's a short list that gets promoted widely. And I would certainly, especially the parent, encourage that any nomination be acknowledged by the guardian of the child. I think we have to follow that level of consent for kids being used. But again, I think it's an easy fix, if I may. We get a clump of 10 nominations, and then maybe there's an opportunity to shortlist into a select number. Right? If you're worried about there being sensitivities.
I'm not seeing how that would turn to the clerk here, because you handle this thing more than we do. We just see it at the point when the nominations are complete and we're reviewing the actual nomination forms.
Through the chair, that's correct. Either way, all of the nominations would have to be reviewed in closed session, and then it would be the determination direction of council whether or not you want to create a short list to advertise more than one. Being on the short list and then selecting from that short list a individual to be awarded. Whether or not it creates contention amongst the nominees, I don't know. I can't predict that. I doubt it. But then there's also, we have to get releases from any of these videos being released, especially with the youth in it.
Okay, does anybody have any comments here? There's a number of issues that we haven't thought about coming up here. Did you want to follow up, Councillor, before we?
Well, I like the idea of the video nomination actually, and I would love to put it in there, possibly the criteria. I would like that to be one of the criteria. I think it'd be great. Video nomination.
And how do you handle the confidentiality part?
Well, the council definitely, I think, duly chair the Ms. McIntyre to the nominee, you get a release signed by the parent or guardian. And if they don't want to be involved with the video, they don't have to be involved with it. Nobody's, it's the system that we have video. But I just think it'd be something different. I know we always did everything. Everything's always the same. I think it'd be something great, especially with the youth.
Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. we can fully accept a video nomination. That can go as part of the, package. Whether or not we release it, that can be a decision that's made at a later period in time. And once again, I'm a little concerned about the information getting out to the public. There's a lot of cyber problems out there, and I think we'd certainly, if we were going to release a video or videos, then we definitely would have to have consent from parents or guardians to release the information. But we can certainly accept it accept the nomination by video.
I think that what comes into us is one thing, what we put out the door is a different thing. And that's where our risk factor goes up. Even with sign-offs. Anybody else want in here, Counselor, Deputy?
I think they're opening a whole Pandora's box here, starting to release videos of nominees. Here, but there's just too many downfalls. So we've always to say it's judged in closed session. Council picks who the winner is, and I don't think it, especially in youth, it can be a great thing if you win. It can be a bad thing if it gets promoted, and you think you've got a chance, and then you don't, and it comes back in council. Well, why did you pick that? No, that's really too many.
That's another aspect of the thing that you may not be aware of, is that we never indicate how many nominations we've received or where they've come from. We just announced that so-and-so is Citizen of the Year, cleanly. And so there's never any, where somebody knows that they were in the lineup, but didn't quite make it. So that's one of the reasons that we do it that way. Small towns, I guess you would say. Anybody else? Deputy?
Yeah, I think everybody else is waiting. I probably should too. Well, I'm all for engagement through video and receiving nominations for sure. I'm not sure that I want, the top 3 videos posted on the township website, in a 12 to 17-year-old category where how many likes they get is ultimately how we pick the winner of. I'm not sure if that's, Abby, at all what you're suggesting, but that's what my mind says, is that the township would pick it, not the members. And well, maybe you can clear that for me first, so that I don't think that way.
Yeah, so I'm not saying this is your evaluation, I'm saying this is a council evaluation.
Okay, so we would just receive them? Yeah, because I think that's fantastic. Like they could send us TikTok videos, they can have some fun with it. I think that's how you engage youth in their speak anyway. That's a fantastic way. I just don't want to judge them that way.
And if I may, just gonna jump in here. So for those of you who don't know, I work at Brockville General Hospital, and we actually run a similar type program. I totally recognize we don't deal with youth, and it's completely new kettle of fish. But we encourage our staff to nominate other peers through video nomination. We accept those videos, we brand them, we don't edit them too much, but sometimes we soften them up a little bit. And then we purpose that for internal use to celebrate our colleagues, to recognize the great work that they do. We also celebrate them publicly. And we say, like this is, Penny, who works in the kitchen, and she does a great job because X, Y, and Z. And to be acknowledged by one of your counterparts is incredibly meaningful, which is why I thought, by extension, doing that for youth in our community would encourage them to take pride in what they're doing and continue to provide good service within our community as members of our community.
And I might just say that I do follow your posts from Brockville General Hospital. And I do understand the program that you put together where you celebrate the work that your colleagues do. I understand that. But again, in that situation, there's no winners or losers. Everybody is kind of nominated, becomes a winner. It's not a competitive process.
I hear what you're saying, and some of we do actually have a competition that runs in it, that we do peer evaluations. Right now, we've got a campaign where we're recognizing all sorts of staff. That's a whole other program that we're running right now. But we do actually award a team member of the year annually.
Oh, okay, so you do that as well on a different program?
Yeah.
I got you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, again, if I may. So in my mind, I see two things then. One way that, we celebrate youth, which is, the way that you're describing the Brockville General, is that any nominations, we promote them as winners and celebrate them, like youth should be. But in a closed session, we would select, through ourselves, one citizen of the year from 12 to 17, much like what we would for a regular citizen. It's almost two different programs for me.
Okay, any other discussion here? Okay, if there's no other discussion, I think the clerk has got the concepts here, and maybe those concepts can be, how shall I say, built into the recommendation that comes forward. And we'll see that recommendation for the council meeting at the end of the month. Okay, if there's no other comments. Anybody raising any points? I'm gonna move on to 6B. 6B concerns the tri-council health care recruitment recommendation. And now that's sort of standing alone on page 16 of 211. Did the letter that I sent to, actually it was a text email message to Mr. Clark's office, didn't get circulated to council then, right?
Through the chair, there wasn't direction to do that yet. You
I thought it
asked for it
was.
to be circulated to the rest of the councils in the municipalities.
Yeah, so that it would get to all members that were present at the meeting.
Right, I unfortunately haven't circulated to this council yet. It's in our council correspondence package to be.
Oh,
sent out.
okay, all right. All right, so anyway, everybody was present at the tri-council meeting, and that's why this item 6B is on the agenda for discussion, and the chair is open for discussion. Not getting much take up here.
I'll go. I mean, I think, that we had a really good discussion regarding what efforts we could make as a council and as a 3 councils to try to bring doctors to our area. We also heard from Dr. Matthews the difficulties in doing that. I for one certainly struggle with the idea of lowering the office expenses, but I mean, if we're just going back to creating a steering committee, which is I'm reading the recommendation, I have zero issue with creating a steering committee. It has to come back to each individual council for endorsement. Obviously we would have somebody, I think, on that steering committee, from council and staff, and then we would have to approve the ideas that they bring before we participate. And I think at that point we'd have the option of opting out if we weren't comfortable with those things. So having said that, I guess I have zero issue with the motion. I moved the motion as it's written.
Okay, I have the motion moved by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. It is in the form of a motion. Does he have a seconder? Councillor Hunter? Councillor Hunter seconding. Further discussion?
Can you read it?
Sorry, through the chair, these are just the motions that came directly
Yeah.
from the tri-council meeting, so it may need to be reworded a little bit for our specific council.
Yeah, so do you want me to do that? Like, I have no idea. Yeah.
Through the chair.
So change tri-council to Edwardsburg Cardinal. Let the Edwardsburg Cardinal Council endorse the creation of steering committee for physician recruitment efforts.
It's,
Yeah, it's more complex than that.
well, actually, from that point, it's not so bad because all we're doing is endorsing the creation of the steering committee for physician recruitment efforts and referring the discussions back to the municipal council.
Could we insert tri-council in front of the steering committee? Of a tri-council steering committee? So that Edwardsburg Cardinal endorsed the creation of a tri-council steering committee for physician recruitment efforts.
Yeah,
That makes sense?
yes.
Okay, so then I'll move that.
Okay, so I'll take it that that's the way the motion came forward, assuming that mover and seconder both regarding it as friendly. And so is there any further discussion here? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried.
Was it? And it's you guys.
Well, I had 4 hands. I thought I saw 4 hands.
Sum it up later, I'm sorry.
And yeah. Did I see your hand? I thought I did.
I only saw 2, so.
All right, so now I'm on item 6C, which is the tri-council cross promotion of recreation assets and tourism events website recommendation. So again, this is the motion that came forward from the tri-council meeting. And I guess the only thing that I would like to see before this comes forward before this council is that it includes the costs which were discussed at the tri-municipal meeting. And if I recall correctly, I remember hearing a cost not to exceed $1,200 as a one-time setup, plus I think it was $50 per month continuing. Can the staff give me some help? Did I recall that correctly? Was it 1,200 plus 500 plus 50 continuing?
You're close. It's not far off. It was 3,000. Yeah, I think it was just under 3,000 usually. And then it was 150 a month. And I think the 150 a month was divided by 3.
Yeah, because I had 50 a month.
But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, the 1,200 was up front.
$1,000 initiative budget and 150 a month ongoing.
That's what I thought.
I was
So it came up to
wondering.
like, so all told, it was like 1,800, right? A year? For the first year?
I think a website is going to cost considerably more. than-
WordPress is cheap. I don't know if you've
Yeah, but
done,
the 12 was 1,200 for each council, I'm sure.
right, and then the ongoing cost of 150 each per month, because that covered Elizabeth Lawless at 20 hours.
Yeah, but it wasn't 100. I don't think it was 150 each. It was 50 each. Go ahead, what do you see?
Through the chair, I'm just pulling up the actual PowerPoint presentation. It does say $1,000 initial plus 150 monthly ongoing.
Right.
And she did indicate that that was per municipality.
Yeah.
So,
Per municipality.
so in total, if we just do basic math, that would be approximately $2,800 for the year.
Exactly, 1,800 plus staff.
Yeah, so 28.
2,800 per year. So how would I say this then in the motion? At a cost not to exceed 1,000? One-time setup?
Yeah, because you got to differentiate the two.
Well, it's an Edwardsburg Cardinal motion, eh?
No, but I mean, the ongoing costs are only gonna be 150 a month. The 1,000 is a one-time. So the 1,800 would be ongoing each year. And the 1,000 is just the startup cost. So it's 2,800 the first year, 1,800 each year ongoing. Is that correct? Well, from,
Through the chair,
What's
based
written?
on the information that PWESF has provided.
I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay, so the motion would say that Edwardsburg Cardinal endorse the creation of the tri-municipal website
Not to exceed.
And to refer back to each municipal council for, well, that part can come out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that TWPEC endorsed the creation of a tri-municipal website at a cost not to exceed $1,000 setup costs plus $150 per month continuing.
So you just go, Mr. Mayor, just 3,000, will not exceed $2,000 for the year. With our website.
Well, there's only 3,000 for the first year.
But I'm just saying that our total is 2,800, just say we will not exceed over 3,000
First year,
for the first year.
150 month.
Right.
Okay, and not to exceed. Not to exceed. 3,000
For the first year.
for the first year. So then. Just so it makes a little bit more sense. We read. It would read that the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal endorsed the creation of a tri-municipal website. At an estimated cost not to exceed $1,000 one-time setup costs. Plus $150 per month continuing, not to exceed. And not to exceed $3,000 for the first year. That get all the concepts involved? I think so. All right, so now the chair's looking for a mover in a second. Okay, I have a council, Deputy Mayor Deschamps move. Does he have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilor Dillabaugh, second. Further discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is, now this time I see the hands. Okay. Right now, I move for item 7A, which is Rail Safety Week proclamation. And there's a briefing note there. The template proclamation is attached on page 19 of 211. So this is just ordinary run-of-the-mill type boilerplate, so not.
Chair, yes, this is an annual proclamation, so I just put it in a committee council correspondence as well as the agenda, just to give everyone a heads up to promote it. Once it's actually received through the committee, it'll be signed by yourself, and then we send it out to CN Rail for them to post as well as we post it on our website.
Okay, and I'd like to go one step farther. Can you get me one of our presentation folders? And there will be a CN booth at the AMO conference. I'd just like to leave one on the booth. Okay, if there's no further discussion there, that's just information purposes. And now I'm at 7B, which is municipal election joint compliance audit committee. And as the briefing note indicates, we're obligated to have such a committee, and we've done it traditionally as a county initiative, organized and administered by the county. And there is a briefing note on page 20 and 21, followed by a recommendation on page 21. The floor is open for discussion. Counselor?
Yes, through you to our staff, do we know at this point in time whether all the townships are in on this?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion, if any? Chairs, counselor?
This recommendation, these are the people that county.
I think county went out looking for nominations, and I think they may have already reached out and touched some of these people. Well, as a matter of fact, they know they have.
Through the chair, all municipalities advertise and we all collect the information and it's submitted to the county clerk for finalization. These are we received five submissions, we selected 4. One had a conflict, we weren't able to select, but we still have the amount that's needed.
Oh, okay, so in other words, the townships went looking for nominations as well?
Through the chair, we all have a joint advertisement that we all posted on our website. It was circulated through local newspaper. And it's all collected and then received and reviewed by the counties. And then they forward information on to all the municipal clerks and we finalize with them.
Okay, all right.
I just wondered, this committee's been running for the last 3 elections anyway. We haven't had a appointment committee for Donna at any time.
We had a meeting of that committee about 3 elections ago. And it was a 3-person committee that we had appointed ourselves before it went to county. I can't remember who our 3 appointees were.
Through the chair that predates myself.
Yeah.
That was in the 2014 election, I believe.
Yep.
Or might have even been the 2010 election. I think it was 2014. Following the 2014 election, the clerks all joined together and decided, and rather than each municipality trying to find professionals that have an understanding of financials, municipal elections, et cetera, it'd be better to go as a joint and then have the counties organized, and then all of the counties are able to collaborate and use the same committee. Because it's far and few between that we actually do receive a request for a compliance audit review. It's just efficient.
So further discussion, if any? Looking for a mover and a seconder to action the recommendation. Okay, well, I have Mr. Packwood moving, and I have Councillor Cameron seconding. Further discussion, if any? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And so now 7B, and I'm at item number 7C, which is the eScribe subscription renewal agreement. And I just have to hit there. Bear with me 1 minute. And here we are on page 35 of 211. And we have a briefing note here as well. And I think we've come to realize that we would be lost without Mr. eScribe. I think our staff feels the same way. And before I open discussion on this, the staff could just help me out here. I know that eScribe is widely used by many of the other townships in the council. In the county council. Does Augusta subscribe to eScribe?
Through the chair, no.
Does Prescott subscribe to eScribe?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, so are there other townships which don't subscribe?
Through the chair, there are other organizations that utilize other systems. There's iCompass, which is another popular one, as well as I believe it's called Civic Web. However, eScribe is widely supported throughout municipalities and counties throughout Ontario, partly due to their endorsement with AMO and accessibility friendliness as well as user friendliness. And as well, if you are subscribed with them through AMO, then you do receive a discount.
Okay. All right, so chair is open for discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick question. Early on in our term, we were talking about, I don't know if it was eScribe or maybe one of the other software that we use in the township, where we would have access to online work reports residents would be able to, if there was a pothole that needed to be filled. Is that e-scribe or is that Municipal?
Through the chair, that would be citywide. It's on our website. We have a service.
So not this. Okay, good. No need for my question, but thanks.
Okay, so I'm looking now, I think there's a recommendation here, we'll just find it. There it is on page 36 of 211. Chair's looking for a mover, Councillor Hunter. Does Councillor Hunter have a seconder here? Councillor Cameron seconding. Further discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. Right, and now we get to minutes to the building permit fee schedule. And I think that starts on page 62 of 211. And I think the briefing note brings up a rather interesting conundrum, and I'm just gonna let Mr. Grant speak to that conundrum because it's sort of a good news, bad news story, if you would, Mr. Grant. Took me a long time to get my head around it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in April of this year, there was a minister's order to amend the minimum area of building that did not require a permit. So that size went from formerly 10 square meters or 100 square feet to 15 square meters or approximately 160 square feet. One of the items that the chief building official sort of raised was that there, for these size of buildings, not requiring a permit, there are some areas with respect to zoning compliance that are very difficult to manage and maintain. And there's some areas within the building code and the zoning bylaw that would require monitoring. And looking at putting forward a sort of a zoning compliance permit fee, and that would ensure that there's the appropriate distance separation between buildings or structures in septic tanks. And small buildings without foundations actually required to be tied to the ground with some type of anchoring system. And just ensuring that accessory buildings meet the required setback or separations from residents, and also side and rear lot lines. So that's one area that certainly needs some further discussion and some maybe a proactive approach with respect to that compliance permit fee. The second item is sort of amendments to the fee schedule, and this is with specifically related more so to category 5, which are accessory buildings or structures to commercial, industrial, and institutional structures. And the third item is with relating to earlier this year, we had passed the fence permit or residential fences bylaw, my apologies, and whether there's interest in having a fence permit to ensure that those residential fences have that minimum distance back from the sidewalk, and ensuring that they are constructed on the actual owner's property, and that there are hindrances to potential site triangle issues.
Okay, so thank you very much. So there's 3 issues here. First is the small buildings and whether or not we might require a zoning certificate that enables us to certify before the building gets built even though you don't have to have a building permit, you'd have to have a zoning certificate or some sort of a certificate that indicates that you're staying within certain guidelines. The second issue is amendment to the fee schedule, and the third is the fence permit. Now, chair's open for discussion here, but the essence of the recommendation is that the committee would be recommending that council direct staff to hold the public meeting that's necessary under the building code to review the proposed amendments to the building permit fee schedule. Now, that means that the entire fee schedule would need to be sort of adopted provisionally or conditionally by council, which means that we really should take a look at page 64 and 65 before we actually deal with the recommendation and direct staff to hold the public meeting. They have to know what they're presenting to the public meeting. So, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, and Mr. Mayor, this has nothing to do with the fee structure. My question is, and thank you, Mr. Grant, for explaining that this is a ministerial order out there. However, my question is, how are we going to police this? And my second part of that question is the existing small, and I'm talking under 100 square feet buildings, such as garden sheds and things like that, which are now going to require the permit of $95. How are the existing ones going to be grandfathered? And how are we going to police the new ones that come into the township? Through the chair to staff, Mr. CIO, if that's the right person.
Certainly, with respect to how we would police that moving forward, that would be the permit application process that they would be submitting that structure and would include as part of that fee would include the CBO or the building inspector attending that site and confirming that the placement of that structure is that does meet setbacks from side rear yards, your septic vents, anything in regard to that. With respect to existing structures that are in place, a little more difficult with respect to going back on those particular items. However, should situations arise in circumstances where a structure is a complaint has arisen under the zoning bylaw, and this does provide a little bit more power with respect to follow up in should that be required.
Just follow up. Yes. Just getting back to the permitting, if a person doesn't apply for a permit and just goes to his local big box store and buys a shed and sets it up and tells no one, that was more the policing that I was referring to. So how would we handle that? Just by complaint driven or any other means?
So through the chair, I would say that it would be mostly complaint driven in that circumstance, because it may be very difficult in a rear yard somebody purchasing a shed and make that setback.
I'm sure those questions at a public meeting will be brought up, but thank you. No further.
Yeah, Mayor.
So, so presently, any 10 by 12. Is that correct? Structure like a Amish shed or like Councilor Cameron's describing like a plastic garden shed. Doesn't need a permit at all. There's no fee for
10 by
installing
10.
one. 10 by 10. or 10 by 12?
Anything under 10 by 10 does not need a permit.
subject to, as it stands right now, yes, if it was a 10 foot by 10 foot, didn't have any, lighting, et cetera, criteria, it would not, require.
No. 10 foot by 10 foot is 100 square feet.
Okay, so if it was 99 square feet. It would not require, so if it was a 10 foot by 8 foot.
And so now. Anything at all. Up to 10 by 15 feet, will anything at all. Will be required to have a $95 site compliance certificate.
To the mayor, it would require the $95 base fee, compliance certificate, which would include that inspection, review and inspection.
I struggle with this.
Mr. Packwood wants in.
Through the chair, would it be helpful to mail out these changes to each household before we have a public meeting? Then you're gonna be guaranteed a full house. Because there's gonna be a lot of people. Missed, but then they can't say they weren't told.
Okay, so we've got another issue on the table here. I think the first issue that we've got to deal with is whether this, I see the point, I think I see the point that Deputy Mayor is trying to raise. Is, in other words, this 100 square foot shed yesterday didn't require a building permit, didn't require anything. Now I'm building a 161 square foot one. I don't have to buy a building permit, so I'm exempt from the building permit, but need a $95 fee to certify that I'm zoning compliant. And believe me, without the zoning compliance, we are going to get issues of he's too close to my house, he's too close to my garage, he's too close to my fence, he's too close to my backyard. He's too close to my driveway. I'm gonna get all of that.
A nightmare.
But if we don't have that fee, that $95 fee, and then before, when it was 100 square feet or less, there were not very many buildings that were less than 100 square feet. 100 square feet, when you can write down to it, is only 2 feet.
10 by 10.
Eh?
10 by 10.
Yeah, 10 by 10 is 100 square feet, yeah. Well, it's a tough one, but I mean, there's a ministerial zoning order staring us in the face here. Now, I did say as well, because and I want to introduce this item because it's another item I think we should look at. If you look at page 64 and 65 of 211, the fees are all shown here. So if you look down, the staff has shown us the changes in red. So for the commercial, so I'm on page 64 going down the left-hand side, number 4, industrial, commercial, institutional construction, which was previously $40 a square foot, 40 cents a square foot, would now be 80 cents a square foot. And number 5, building accessory to commercial industrial, the basic fee is 95 and it's 80 cents per square foot, up from 40. Item C, commercial, industrial, institutional renovations or repairs, again, moved up from 40 cents per square foot to 80 cents per square foot. And I have no problem with the 40 to 80s. I think we should be implementing them. But the problem where I do have, and I think we should be looking at, if we're going to hold a public meeting, all of these base fees are $95. And, you know, for the sake of $5, rounding them up to 100, I think we might just as well do that at the same time. Because, I mean, we already know that we're not going to have enough, well, this is not going to be effective until January 1st, 2023 anyway. Although, maybe the staff can give you some guidance there. On page 64 of 211, it says building permit fees, October 1, 2022. And then it says bylaw 2022-XXX, I guess that would be. So is it the intent here to have these fees effective October the 1st or January the 1st? Because I think the briefing note shows January the 1st.
Yeah, through the mayor, there was a little communication, or miscommunication between the chief building official and the CAO. CBO input for October 1st and in discussion item that mentioned the effective January 1st, 2023 as the effective date. And in that conversation near the end, the draft schedule did not get updated to indicate January 1st.
Okay, so the achievable date is January the 1st.
I believe that is a more achievable date.
No. Okay. All right, now let's go to the actual numbers here. So I have Councillor Cameron and Deputy Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just want to have a follow-up question on the shed issue. Are we also going to include the soft-sided sheds, such as the canvas shed where somebody has one, we'll say 6 square feet, put a snow blower in? Is that going to be subject to a $95 charges or permit as well? Or $100, whatever we decide on. So I guess what I'm saying is there going to be any differential between a hard side structure or a soft side structure? Because most of the soft side structures are seasonal. They take them down in the summer. It's just more or less for winter conditions that they're put up. Some are left up year round, I will admit that. But is that going to be classified as a structure in this situation?
Through the mayor, I will certainly need to have a slightly further discussion with the CBO, but my feeling is that it's most likely one is what I would consider more temporary in nature, and the other where the hard structure is more permanent in nature.
That's quite acceptable, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion here. Number of issues on the table. Deputy Mayor.
I had one question, and forgive me for forgetting about the fence permit part of this and the fence bylaw portion, but does the fence bylaw pass with the new ZBL? And do we have a fence bylaw in the old ZBL? I forgot. My apologies.
Through the chair, the zoning bylaw 2012-35 did speak to residential fences. There's a paragraph, but the new zoning bylaw does not speak to fences at all. In a sense, yes, and it may we introduced a separate bylaw with respect to residential fences.
And just for my own clarity again, so that bylaw is in effect regardless of which ZBL is in effect, then that bylaw.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay.
All right, now, these $95 base fees, is there any objection to showing them as $100? I would prefer to do this all at once. We're gonna hold a public meeting. Okay, I hear no objections there, so I sense that we have consensus that the fee schedule would be revised to show all those base fees at 100. I'm not seeing any dissuasion of that.
The only dissuasion for me would be the second, there's 2 number 21s on it, and the new number 21, which is the compliance certificate. I will be in favor of keeping that.
Okay, so, yeah, but you're not,
The rest of it I'm fine with, and I'm fine with the change to the $100, but I'm not okay with the new number,
okay, but that's a separate issue.
as long as it is.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, so, now we need some talk about the compliance certificate, whether it's 95 or 100 is irrelevant at this point. But we're introducing a new requirement. That is the basic issue, Councillor Hunt.
The issue I see with that is, directive that has to go to 161 square feet, I see. When you're not getting a building permit for that, if and there's no inspection on 10 by 10. I don't know of any of the, they're called Mennonite sheds that have come in from the US that are 10 by 10. Most of them are 8 by 15 or 10 by 15 or something like that. Well, they needed a building permit for them when they moved. And I think council's quite aware there's an awful lot of them that were turned down by our building inspectors that didn't meet. Both rafters were at 3 foot spacing, or they were at 2 by 3 rafters and stuff in them. So I think that's where we need this compliance fee in here now, that gives the right for a building inspector to go and look at them and turn them down.
Well,
Does it at all?
you know, and the big thing about these, when you had to have a building permit, was that you had to have engineered drawings that showed that your rafters were correct and your floor joists were correct. And you know, I know when I bought mine, I had to have engineered drawings when I applied for the building permit. And now you've got 161 square feet where no building permit is required and no engineered drawings are required.
In all fairness, they're still not, though, right? Like the examples, at least the way that I read them, are the distance separation from your leaching bed.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't say in there anywhere that the building itself, 3 foot spacing or anything like that would be addressed at all. It's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. This is a ministerial zoning order that I don't really understand the reason for.
So for me, I think if I was to support the $95 compliance fee, and the real difference is that we want compliance and we're worried about the larger size building and where it goes, I'd probably be fine then with the compliance fee from the new number, the 161, so that it checks the location of where it goes, not too close to your septic and blah, 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 back to what the old number used to be, whether that was, I think it was 100 square feet is what we said it was. From 100 square feet and down, I prefer that it stayed at 0. So for me, the compliance certificate would be from the new number, the 161, and required to 100 square meters. Anything below that doesn't require the compliance.
So further discussion here,
Well,
you can see.
Mr. Mayor, a good strong gust of wind can take a 10 by 10 shed and throw it over a neighbor's fence. I think there has to be some kind of policing put in place for that. And I know because it happened to mine.
Well, the essence of this, the essence of the recommendation that we have in front of us is to schedule a public meeting. I really don't think we can get to a public meeting until we know what it is we're going to take to the public meeting. I'm sensing now that we're not arriving at a consensus here, nor are we arriving at a decision. Chair's looking for direction, actually. Chair's looking for direction. Councilor Hunt.
I don't think we need to divided up between 100 or 161. I think we need some kind of inspection here. Does it need to be 95 or $100? I don't think it does. I think that just entices people that they're not gonna bother applying for one, hope nobody complains about it. I'd sooner see a lot lower fee there. Like $25 or something, that most people are likely to pay, 'cause it's not a big deal, and they apply and get it. I'm not gonna try to worry about a neighbor complaining about $20 or something, but for $100, you might just say, "Oh, I'm not, well, bother if somebody complains about it, yeah, okay, I'll complain about it." I'd sooner see just a minor fee, like you put $10 on the burn permit, and we double the burn permit fee. Nobody had a problem taking $10 to go online and register that.
Well, it went from 0 to 10.
Yeah, but it's just $10.
But
It goes right, if you put that burn permit at $100, I'll bet you we would only have a quarter of.
the reason I'm looking at this from a different point of view is because the building permit, the building department survives on these fees. And it must survive on these fees, one way or another. Now, we already know from the reports that we've had earlier, I think it was the June report, the building permit report, where we learned that we're probably not going to make enough in building permit fees this year to cover the cost of the department. And we're probably gonna have to draw from that reserve this year. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking at getting these numbers up a little bit higher. Just even if it's only $5 here and $5 there. But gotta remember that whether it's a compliance certificate or building fee or building permit or whatever it is, it requires the time of either our chief building official or our inspector, or both. And that's the reason that I'm kind of sticking with the $100 fee. I do accept your argument, though, that the lesser you make the fee, the more attractive it is to the individual. But on the other hand, we've got to keep this department self-sufficient. So that's my counter argument to you there. Chair's looking for direction here. Let me just summarize where we are right now. I think we've got consensus around the $100 as the base fee. I think we've got consensus on the 40 cents going to 80 cents per square foot on those 4 or 5 categories that I've already spoken to. I think we've come to the realization that a compliance certificate of some sort is going to be required for a number of different reasons. I think we've got consensus on that. The question now is the fee. I've got one holdout on the compliance certificate as an entity, but I think I have consensus of the others. I'd like to see a nodding of heads. Do we understand that a compliance certificate is going to be a necessity here?
Yeah,
I've got a nodding of one.
No, I just want to go back to that. So I just want to make sure I totally understand that. So anything over 161 square feet, they have to pay the $95.
No, they have to have a building permit. If it's
Yeah,
over
over
161 square feet, they have to have a building permit.
A building permit. Anything under the 161, they have to apply for this building compliance of
Yes,
$95. So it doesn't matter. They're gonna have to pay
yes, it's
for
just,
any building.
well, the difference is though that an accessory building, they're paying 40 cents per square foot. So if it's 161 square feet, I guess I can do the math here quickly. At 161 square feet at 40 cents per square foot, for 24, 4, 6. That's $64.40 they'll be paying. If the building is more than 161 square feet, they'll be paying $64.40 or more for their building permit. If it's less than 161 square feet, they'll be paying $100 for the compliance certificate. The CEO wants in here.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the minimum building permit fee is $95.
Sorry, yes, you're right, Mr. Grant, I missed that completely. Yep, you're right, now 100, I think we have a consensus at 100.
Consensus.
I'm gonna go back and beat the dead horse though.
I'm gonna beat the dead horse
I'm
again.
I'm gonna beat it again. I just struggle. We sit around this table talking about cutting red tape and making things easier for people. And here we are for something that forever has been 10 by 10. And now we're going to force people to go through a compliance certificate of where they can put their garden shed to park their lawnmower. Like, there's no way that I can support that. Like, I can't. I can support the difference between the 10 by 10 to the 10 by 15 or getting to that 161. You know, it's a larger space. It could be, you know, tried to be tucked into smaller spaces, stuff like that. I've never seen a garden shed go flying over anybody's fence or any issues with that. We've had some pretty terrible weather in the last little bit. I can't, there's no way I can support that.
Okay, so I've got one hold out there.
But I feel the same. I think we're just gonna open up a whole bunch of
Well,
problems.
the problems that you're gonna open up is when the shed, is when the building is
Close
too
to the
close.
house, too close to the sidewalk.
But
It's
it's
gonna
never
go on and
been.
on and on.
Beg pardon?
It's just gonna go on and on and on when our inspectors go out there for this little on the shed that everyone has one, that should have one, I think. Good stable and store stuff. We're just gonna have a mess where, well, it's too close to the sidewalk, too close to the back. We're just gonna open up a whole can of worms once we get in there with that.
Where's the can of worms coming from?
Well, when we have this compliance, people, first thing that people are gonna think, you have to pay this $95 fine. It's another grab. It's another grab. And it is another grab. Why should someone pay that, store their lawn in a 10 by 10 shed?
Well, because the neighbor doesn't want it on his yard. The neighbor wants to know that he's distanced from the yard lot line. You don't want me putting my shed in your lot or on your lot line.
But how many complaints have we had with people? None, because we didn't have to.
No, but most buildings are over 100 square feet, and so there's a building permit issue. They're already getting building permits, and when you get the building permits, you have to certify in your application that you're the right distance from the lot line. And the right distance from the house, and the right distance from the septic field. You have to certify all that in your application.
Right, but why then go back now? And it hasn't been an issue under that size at 100 square feet in the past. So now we're going to say that under 100 square feet is going to be a problem because they raised.
No.
Because they raised it to 161. Sure we are.
No, we're not going to go back and check every building that's already been
I'm
built.
not saying we were. I'm saying that from this day forward, or the day that this passes forward, if you want to have a 6 by 6 garden shed to park your lawn tractor in, you have to pay $100. Before this passes, you wouldn't. And the reason that we're putting it in place is supposedly because now you're allowed to have a 10 by 15 foot shed. So
Without a building permit.
without a building permit, right? The difference to me is the 10 by 10 isn't the issue. It's the 10 by 10 size to the 10 by 15 size. That's where the issue is. 10 and under, no issue.
Well, and we can't even say that it is going to be an issue,
Right.
because smaller isn't an issue now.
It's not an issue now.
No,
Right.
Okay, so what are we doing?
Are you?
That's what we're here for. That's why they send us here.
You're in council, you're debating.
Sir, debating, sorry.
Go ahead.
Would there be any chance, Mr. CIO, through the chair to you, that we could get a copy of the ministerial order? The rationale?
Yeah, through the chair, I'm not sure that makes sense. The ministerial order doesn't indicate that we have to make a compliance fee. All it's saying is, all it's saying is that you can now, basically, you can have a bigger structure that's not engineered. So what's the reason for the ministerial order? I expect a lot of people want it bigger sheds without having a permit for the proper engineer. For lack of a better, summarize that highlight.
Okay, well, maybe the way out of this is to just make this compliance certificate. I mean, I'm trying to raise dollars here for the building, for the building part of it, but maybe the way out of it is just, you'll still have the compliance certificate, but we'll only charge the minimal amount for it. So put in $50 instead of $100. Then you're using up resource time without recompense. Okay,
I just,
here's looking for direction.
I just want to be clear, I'm not gonna support a compliance.
Okay, so it won't matter what we do, we're not gonna get that support.
You're not gonna get all.
Okay.
Always, there was definitely mirrors suggested split. So. I'm sure that certificate not needed for it. Anything that doesn't require a building permit over 100 square feet.
We can still have our 10 by 10 and 10 by 8.
So what's are you saying?
Compliance certificate be issued for any building not requiring a building permit over 100 square feet.
So less than 100 square feet down remains the same.
And no sort of-
Okay, so can the staff incorporate that concept into the next draft here? And let's get to the nub of this issue, which is to direct the staff to hold the public meeting. So before the public meeting gets come forward, staff will give us another draft of this. Go ahead.
Sir, thank you, Mayor. Just to add to the conversation and see if we can generate some more.
Another issue?
Good discussion. Well, category number 5. I think it sort of comes to light where it's just the base fee of $95. And as it is right now, it's 40 cents a square foot. We're proposing to move it to 80 cents a square foot.
Yes.
But you'll notice on page 63 that we've had some high construction value that would be deemed to be accessory buildings, and our building permit revenue is substantially down with respect to $2,330 for basically $3 million worth of construction value, because it's only based on that square footage.
Yeah, but what I couldn't figure out is why that issue, and the paragraph is clear there. What I couldn't figure out is why was that issue not addressed in the fee schedule? I mean, I quite agree with you. I mean, I think it's ludicrous that somebody that's building, what is it, commercial industrial? Where are we? Somebody that's building commercial industrial or institutional. I mean, why are we letting them go with such minimal permit fees? I mean, that's a prime source of revenue in my mind.
To increase it from 95, you mean?
Well,
The base
that's only
fee.
the base fee, but
Yeah.
it's so much per square foot. We're at 40 cents a square foot. We should be at like $2 a square foot in my mind. When you're in business, industrial, commercial, institutional, and you're building a 1,000 square foot building. 1,000 square foot building at $2 a square foot, it's peanuts. We're charging 40 cents a square foot.
So Mr. Mayor, under category 5 we are.
Yeah.
But under category 4 and category 6, it's $9 for $1,000, whichever is the greater.
So what's the difference between 4 and 5 and 6?
one's an accessory.
Well, what would be a building that is deemed to be an accessory to the primary use of that?
And the other one is just renovations or repairs.
Correct.
Yeah, but it's still not recompense, it's still not paying for the time that our building official has to spend on.
And that is why it's getting raised now. We had some further discussions today and give full marks to the treasurer for raising that issue, and that's why I'm bringing it forward right now.
Okay, so I think what we're looking for is a recommendation around that issue. And maybe you can build that into the next draft of the building permit people. So definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to both the treasurer and CAO. In last year's budget, we actually had a surplus though in the building department, didn't we? Like a fairly sizable surplus at 40 cents per square foot.
So through the chair, very rarely will any commercial industrial institution of construction go by the square foot. We typically go by the $9 per $1,000.
Right. But
So
I'm just pointing out, though, we had a surplus last year. This year is a little different. We don't have a surplus this year. We're gonna be short, but last year we were pretty healthy.
but through that may be correct, but I think that it's not based on the 40 cents per square foot. So it's a combination of the amount of residential development versus commercial development, whether it's an accessory building, whether it's whether it's a large warehouse. But there's a number of factors, right, that determine that value. And urban.
Way down. Residential.
Okay, Councilor Hunter.
I just have a question when you look at permit fees at $9 per thousand. And it says the last quarter, we had $3,173,000 building permits. The revenue was only 2,300. Well, if there's that much of a permit at $9 a thousand, that which should have been $28,000 in fees. So how did we only get $2,300 in fees?
So through the chair, those are the permits that we indicated that went under category 5, which is basically $40 per square foot. And I think that's a concern.
40 cents.
40 cents.
$40.
$40, I hear you.
Sorry, my apologies.
So
Why don't we have the same
yeah,
level on it? Raised 80 cents for the. Pay it by the thousand. But most construction, like in our township, here, like, they made a basic warehouse building, I imagine that like went under an accessory building of a plant, did it?
I would indicate that the warehouse would be sort of an extension and by the $9 per thousand.
A lot of this stuff is going. But I think it should be, we should have some kind of value based on it. You know, our solar farm, we've made absolutely nothing out of that, and building permits a multi-million-dollar job, we got nothing out of that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Based on the square foot of the cement block underneath.
Yeah.
Come out to nothing for us for the amount of time that we had to go and inspect all the stuff, so.
So are you suggesting
I
that
think we
the
should
$9 for $1,000 be included in number 5?
take, some kind of.
wouldn't go maybe that high.
Much or not, at least. Something, it's an accessory building. Council said, just over there 5 or 6 or something, maybe it's a little less than the main building.
You could at least put in the draft something like split it as 50%, something like $4.50 a thousand.
I'm wondering if we should be using the word structures instead of buildings, because I'm thinking about Councilor Hunter's comment about the solar farm. Those were structures. And they paid on They paid on the pipe that went into the ground. They were not buildings.
Top line with the additional 450 per thousand.
Okay, so we've come up with a number of changes that the staff will incorporate in the next iteration of this building permit fee schedule. So now can we turn our attention to the recommendation that's on page 63? Because the intent of the recommendation is to direct staff to hold the public meeting. I know they won't be holding the public meeting before we get to the council meeting at the end of the month. I think there's probably a 30-day requirement or a 20-day requirement in advance of the meeting, is there not?
Mr. Mayor, yes, there is certainly some time. That's why we were looking at the implementation of January 1st to give us
Okay,
adequate time to make some adjustments to have that back to council and give adequate public notice.
okay, and then when we get to this item as it comes forward on the council agenda, we'll bear in mind Mr. Packwood's suggestion that we make a more robust effort to get this draft or this proposed new draft building permit fee schedule more widely circulated. I don't know whether we can afford to a letter to all of the different residents, because there will be a pile of residents that will want to know about this. And it's too bad because we just got our tax notices in the mail and they were very, the briefing note that was with the tax notices was pretty comprehensive, but we missed this opportunity. We missed that opportunity. Okay, I'm at page 63. Chair's looking for a mover and a seconder to move and second this recommendation. I've got Councillor Hunter moving. Does he have a seconder? Mr. Packwood second. Okay, I'm about to call the question if there's no further discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. So we look forward to the next draft of this permit fee schedule. Okay, so now I'm passing the gavel to Councillor Cameron, and he will chair the next 3 or 4 items. I can answer questions.
So the public works section, this meeting is now called to order. And that brings us to number 7E, and it's on in your packages. It's on pages 66 to 72, and there is a recommendation with that. And this is the SNC property, the Healing Place, and there was some discussion prior regarding the cutting of the property by our staff. And the recommendation reads that committee recommends that the council direct staff to cut the grass at the Healing Place property for the remainder of this year, and then request that SNC coordinate with an independent contractor to maintain the site. And from what I understand in discussions with staff, that a contract agreement came forward wanting us to cut the grass for another 5 years free, at no charge. So you've had a chance to read the briefing note. I'll open the floor up to questions and concerns, and I'll start with Councillor Dilbaugh to my right left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have, I don't have a problem helping them for the rest of the year. Just wish we could do a little bit for them, but I can understand the cost, it's costing our staff to work there. So, I'm willing to go along with that recommendation. The council giving us job with the SNC coordinating independent contract.
So when I give the others a chance to comment, can I come back to you for a mover?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, questions or concerns?
Well, I don't have a lot of concerns, except that the staff does point out that when we had a contract with the SNC before, they did charge us, so I think turnabout is fair play. If we were going to do this, we would want to charge them, but I like the idea of having them see if they can find an independent contractor to maintain the site, so I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that we're helping out. It's certainly in the discussion with, I forget what his name was when Chris, yeah, that's right. When I went out to the healing place, certainly, a little more than an inconvenience for them to come and cut it. I know staff's getting used to sort of the area and they're doing a good job with keeping it cleaned up, but struggle when we get billed for the butternut costs and they're not sort of reciprocating as well. I'd like, I wish that there was a way that maybe they could reimburse us for the job.
Councillor Hunter.
I think staff's been doing an excellent job. I've been down 2 or 3 times. To there. Mike Crew is doing a great job at keeping it trimmed up. It does cost us a little bit of money. I don't think it's an exorbitant cost costing us to do this. And I think it does put the township in this is the healing center. South Nation maintaining the forum. We started because of the reconciliation nomination and stuff. I got to think that it's not going to break the township to keep this up and keep it mowing. I know we pay South Nation, but I know South Nation does do stuff for us. That they provide a lot of staff and support on calls for planning and one thing that we don't get a bill for. So I think they do help out some along the way. And we got to recognize that this is really put the township in a strong view with our indigenous residents and the indigenous community and our society and stuff. And they've been very supportive of this township on projects we've had along the riverfront. We've had grants that we've might have not been able to work within. Mayor knows well what I'm talking about on our major construction. Like they really come through for us here and fighting with fisheries and stuff to get us off the hook in a few things here. So I think for a little bit of cost grass mowing to keep the site that they're very proud of and taking a very keen interest in here. I think we should go along with
Mr. Packwood.
I go along with Councilor Hunter's opinion.
And Mr. Bush.
Um,
You okay? Okay, I'll come back to Mr. Mayor.
So Councillor Hunter pulls my heartstrings and he's absolutely correct. Yeah, he's absolutely correct. Minimal cost here and it does buy us a lot of goodwill. And so what I would like to do is continue cutting it this year. I don't really want to enter into this site maintenance agreement though. Is there a way around that, Councillor Hunter? Can we do it on a best efforts basis rather than with a site maintenance agreement?
imagine that next council probably could work that out because it's pretty.
Yeah.
Whatever help. They were
So,
trying to do it on a volunteer basis and they had a couple come once in a while, but wanted to come and mow it, and then they thought everyone was coming and mow, and then they didn't come and mow, and then ended up South Nation had to hire somebody with brush hog to go in and cut, because it got so bad, you couldn't cut it. And it's just, I'm sure the next council. I think their feelings, maybe no one hear what their feelings is about. So Chief's goodwill, so I wouldn't want to tie the next council down. So we need to do it to the end of this year anyway.
so Mr. Chairman, if we ended the recommendation at the word year, council recommends that council direct staff to cut the grass at the Healing Place property for the remainder of this year, and then just end it right there. And leave the next year up to the new council.
Staff, Is that all right?
To the chair, if that's the will of that committee, I would possibly suggest that we might want to add in, for the remainder of this year and revisit in 2023.
Councillor Hunter, is that satisfactory? Mr. Mayor, is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
2023. Does staff have enough information to accept that recommendation now?
We do, Mr. Chair.
All right, based on that, do I have did I get a mover in a second?
No, I'll move that though.
We'll move it. Mr. Packwood, we're going to second.
Look at it, 2023.
Correct. That is correct. All right, I'm going to call the question on that. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, everyone. Just bear with me a moment, but I'll get everything organized here now. Okay, thank you. That brings us now to 7F. And this is a information item. There's no recommendation with this. And this is the municipal sewage collection system, which is the compliance approvals. And do I have a speaker to this?
Mr. Chair, I can certainly highlight some components of this.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you. So staff has certainly put a pile of work into going through this process to reaching the point of having the consolidated environmental compliance approvals. So there are basically two for the municipality, one with respect to sewage, municipal sewage, and the other with respect to storm. So one of the advantages of the consolidated ECA should streamline approvals and outline what alterations can be made by the municipalities with respect to conditions and reporting requirements. So in the circumstances of the Spencerville drainage project and the Johnstown drainage project, that we had potential delays of close to 6 months through that environmental compliance approval process. That will be able to be substantially expedited now with this new approval process. So there are definitely still some heavy lifting to be completed, which includes the development and implementation of an operational plan by May 19th of 2023. Also, sort of with respect to the sewage collection system, there would be an overflow reporting. So we're required to take samples prior to November 19th of 2022 for some of the parameters, including VOD, suspended solids, phosphorus, E. coli, as sort of a baseline for a couple of our overflows that we have on the systems, in particular Henry Street and Spencerville pumping station #1. By May of 2023, we'll also require to complete a significant drinking water threat assessment report for any proposed alterations. In addition, by November 19th, 2023, for an assessment report with respect to wet weather flows compared to dry weather flows. And some additional signage with respect to any of our overflow locations that sort of detail and identify the ECA number, the asset ID, and owner contact information. And we will start with the annual reporting process by March 31st, 2024, which will be for the 2023 year. This ECA has a renewal time of June 15th, 2026. So very, very similar to moving towards the drinking water quality, the water system where you have that license. It's now a consolidated approval process. Very similar with respect to the storm water management system. As far as the operational plan, same timeframe of May 2023, and that operational plan. With respect to the stormwater system, there'll be a monitoring plan that will need to be created and in place by May of 2024. Source water protection, very similar to the sanitary sewer collection system by May 2023. And the new stormwater ECA requires sort of the inventory and a mapping to be completed on that system by 2025. And annual reporting for this system would be required. Our first report would be required on April 30th of 2024 and reporting for the 2023 operating year. Same sort of criteria with respect to signage need to be in place by May of 2025. And the ECA renewal date is set up for June 15, 2026. So staff have just sort of highlighted a few areas for upcoming budgets. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but cost of develop and implement a monitoring plan for both Johnstown and Spencerville stormwater systems being looked at. Preventative maintenance activities for the oil and grit separator and swale systems that are going in place for Johnstown and Spencerville, and a more fulsome closed circuit TV inspection program and the required signages.
Thank you, CAO Grant. Are there any questions or concerns for Mr. Grant's? Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you, Chair, to the CEO. So, Mr. CEO, is this sort of like reducing the red tape that last year we wanted to go out and get our tenders, but we couldn't because we didn't have approval from the Ministry of Environment? Is this going to help us on these certain projects?
So through the chair, this should certainly streamline that process.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
No,
Mr. Deputy Mayor
absolutely not.
and Councilor Hunter.
I don't have any questions. I think it might save red tape in the end, but it's take one awful lot of man hours of work for staff to get to that point. So I don't know in the end work for maybe in the end of 20 years we save money, but I think for the first 5 years it costs.
Mr. Packwood. And Mr. Bush, nothing. Okay, well, as I say, it's an information item. You have the briefing note in front of you for future referral. I'm now going to move on, and that brings us to 7G, which is the request to stop it and close and convey a road allowance in the north part of the township. There is a recommendation with this as well. And the recommendation reads, the committee recommend that council agree to stop up and close the unopened road allowance identified as part 2 on plan 15R6142. And that the land be conveyed to the owner of 7068 County Road 44. And that the intended conveyance be publicized through the township's website, local newspaper, and by direct mail to property owners of land within 120 meters. Questions or concerns at the table? And I'll start with Mr. Bush.
No, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Packwood.
No questions.
Councilor Hunter.
I have no question about the part with closing up. I just wondered why we wouldn't close half of the road before on the other side of 44, just a while ago now, we're closing the chunk for this, why we wouldn't just close the whole road very straight through and done with it, so.
Is that a question to staff,
Just. I guess,
or was it thinking out loud?
kind of thinking out loud, because it's not gonna cost any more to publicize, close the remainder of it and. Going no place, and none of that road landlocked anybody, so.
So that was my guess, so that doesn't, it's not landlocking anyone.
No.
Do you?
That should come from staff.
To the chair, it would not.
I just,
Go ahead.
why didn't, yeah, thank you, why didn't we do this years ago then? I see, no, it's in
The
there.
letter, Mr. Block didn't bother sending in the letter after he asked you.
And I think this goes back to the early 90s or
Yeah.
80s,
Yeah,
so I think it was an oversight something.
Well, through the chair, it looks like the process had taken shape in 1995 and it was advertised and it seems like it was a little bit of a timing with the sale closing and it appears like at the 11th hour, there were some concerns raised at that particular time from residents that were using that unopened road allowance. And sort of the decision was made not to actually stop on close and convey at that time. And it was sort of the sale indicated that it came with part 1 and part 2, but the bylaw was not passed. So it's a bit of a unique circumstance. So this would bring it in line now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Deputy Mayor,
No.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm kind of with Councilor Hunter. If we're gonna stop up and close part 2, why aren't we stopping up and closing part 1 and part 3? I think that's the reference, part 1 and part. Yeah, I think it's part 4 is one of them. I just want to close that entire load allowance. We're only conveying the one part. We don't have to convey the other 2, but we might just well stop them up and close them at this point. Then that part of it has been done. It's a different exercise altogether to convey, and then we would have to determine who to convey it to. Clearly, part 2, we're being asked to convey it to a specific individual, and that was apparently is an error from the past that we're just correcting. So we're going to support the recommendation.
Also, too, I believe that particular owner has been paying taxes
Yes.
on that, so I think it's fair that it should go to that particular owner. Then Councilor Dillabaugh, do you have any further questions? Okay. Okay, so the recommendation then is good the way it stands. And about the remaining question to staff, about the remaining part, how would you handle that? Remaining road lines.
Through the chair, we would have to just get a little bit more on the legal description, but there's nothing to say that we couldn't just stop up those particular sections and as the mayor indicated, just skipping the one particular part that's in question.
And bring that back to another.
Correct.
Very good, thank you. Okay, you've read you the recommendation, you've had a chance to look at it. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Hunter and Mr. Packwood, thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Recommendation is declared carried. Thank you. And that brings us to which is 7H, which is the Spencerville Drainage Project Update. And it's on page 211. of the briefing note. And there is no recommendation with this. It's an information item. And Mr. CAO, who would be highlighting this report?
Mr. Chair, I can give you the highlights of this report if you'd like.
Thank you.
So, from all indications, that the remaining main pipes should have been installed on Friday. Catch basins are scheduled to be installed later this week. The curbs and gutters are scheduled for the week of August 22nd. Just to update members of the committee and council that there have been 5 change orders. The initial change order was part of the award, which was with respect to changing from sod to hydro seed. Then we've had a tree removal and some catch basin manhole coring to adjust the pipeline. And I think a main note is some soil. There was a layer of hydrocarbon discovered in the section. So during that excavation portion, and that needed to be removed and taken to Bruce Creek for proper disposal. And the other 2 items were raised within the last couple of weeks at the council meeting. With respect to Cedar Street and Cherry Street. So working away at getting those change orders in place and signed and that work to be completed.
And the briefing note tells us that we're going to use approximately $80,000 of the $127,000 contingency.
Through the chair, that is correct as things stand with that rough estimate until we get those final change orders in place for the actual dollar values.
Thank you for that. I'll open it up to questions. I see Councillor Hunter, go ahead.
That contaminated soil, what street did we run into that on?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Charles, but I would have to confirm that.
Is very much up there?
I think there was just a particular area. I don't think it was a large area, but I'll need to confirm that.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Graham? Mayor, go ahead.
Well, there are 5 change orders here. Each of these change orders has a number, a dollar number. So the first one, sod to hydro seed, that's a credit to the contingency fund. Changing from sod to hydro seed, it was less money. So the other 4 all have numbers. I mean, I don't understand why we're getting change orders here without the dollar of amount of the change order. You know, it's a contract. The change orders are necessarily part of any contract, but generally the amounts of the change orders are reported back. And I would like to see the amounts of these change orders.
So through the chair, they each know. I just don't have those exact amounts as of right now.
Fair enough.
Could those be supplied at some time?
Certainly as part of the future update, those numbers can be provided.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, Mr. Mayor?
To
Deputy, or I'm sorry, Councilor Billable. Deputy Mayor, I don't think you had anything.
No, I'm good.
Mr. Hunter again.
Just one, they're talking to the contractors, looks like they're getting ready. 22nd that they're going to start doing the curves and stuff, so I assume that means the drainage crews moved out, so are they on schedule then to move to Johnstown on the 22nd to start the sewer work there?
So through the chair, I would say that if the timelines remain in place, I would anticipate that they would be. There should be letters and pre-inspections happening within the next week or so.
So have they established a staging area for Johnstown?
Through the chair, that I'm not aware of at this stage.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so after the curb and gutters scheduled to be installed in the week of August the 22nd, the next step on this contract should be paving. Is there any projected date for paving? Or are they gonna wait and do both Johnstown and Spencerville at the same time?
Through the chair, I'm not sure if that's been finalized with their paving crew, but I anticipate that they may be looking at doing those jobs at the same time, but still in the works on that.
Thank you.
Okay, we've received the information. Any further questions? I'm going to carry on then. Thank you. Now, as previously arranged, between the two meetings, it now comes time for Public Works to turn the gavel back to Mr. Mayor to continue the meeting from number 8 on.
Okay, so I'm at item number 8A, which is council inquiries, notice of motion. Does anyone have anything going forward?
Yeah.
Nothing?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was invited to a presentation yesterday at the 17 in Johnston. And we as council also were presenting a referral to John Tiger and to Sarah. And we had members of council there, deputy mayor and myself, who was councillor for that ward, where the swim team was going on. And the deputy mayor and myself was not involved with the Giant Tiger presentation. And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I think that you would use poor judgment on that.
I may have to.
So. Thank you.
Are there any other council inquiries or notices of motion?
Yeah, I'll follow that up. To staff, Mike, a fantastic job with all staff getting the area ready and getting it set up for the swim meet. There were hundreds of kids from all over Eastern Ontario there, and everyone had a fantastic time. The volunteers did an excellent job, certainly well attended. And just everyone had nothing but good things to say, especially with food. Second one would be to Dave, and I saw that Mr. Modler sent to the CAO, sorry, that Mr. Modler sent out an email to you today. He in no way anticipated that the wayward signs would be installed overnight, and said that he can't wait to see if you respond as quickly to his next ask. So, well done on getting the signs up. There were lots of people that commented on the wayward signs. So, well done to all staff involved. Good job.
If I may comment on that, it just happened to be the timing of it. Nothing to do with myself.
Are there additional ones to go up?
Through the chair, no. You recall back last year, we had sort of went to County Road 2 and Sophia, and then Sophia and Sutton, which would be those the main area. Those are the only two that.
Councilor?
It's like a lawyer for the deputy mayor town to facility manager there to carry through to his tool staff. Granddaughters were involved in swimming again this year there, and I must comment on the, I've done 2 or 3 times watching there and your lifeguards and pool instructors certainly did a great job this year, and I've heard nothing but great comments against the staff at both Johnstown and Cardinal Pools on the professionalism and stuff of the lifeguards, and a couple of comments from one that were taking lessons from St. Dundas. What a pleasure it was to come to our pools and have lessons there rather than trying to swim on the beach and stuff and limited, and would only take certain ones for lessons, and I realized it was in the water, and they did too, but they certainly they got lots of pats on the back for the jobs they're doing this year, and I had comments from a few other townships inquiring, how the devil did you get your pool staff? Well, we can't even keep our pool open. I think your council decision, your decision to pre-train some of these lifeguards went a long way, and it certainly showed up this year. So congratulations.
Very good.
Sorry, I said thank you. I'll pass that along to my team.
Any other council inquiries or notice of motion? Hearing none, move on. There's no mayor's report unless there's somebody on Zoom. There's no question period. So I guess we're ready to go into the closed session, item number 11. And so the chair is looking for the motion to go into a closed session under section 239, sub 2, sub D.
Myself, second by Deputy Mayor Dish, ready. Proceeding in closed session at 8:39 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to section 239 B, personal matters of an identified individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically personal policy grid, and the minutes of closed session dated July 11th, 2022.
Thank you very much. And all in favor? Motion is carried, and we'll just have a 5-minute break.
And myself, second Deputy Mayor Dish, closed meeting is now adjourned. The local meeting committee has now resumed 9:18 p.m.
Thank you very much. And those in favor? Motion is carried. And so now we're back in an open session. And I'm going to report out from the closed session. To start with, Councillor Dillabaugh will bring forth a motion. Councillor.
Moved by myself and second by Councilor Cameron that the committee receives and approves the closed session minutes dated July 11th, 2022.
Thank you very much. Those in favor? And now further reporting from the closed session, council met with the CAO to discuss matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And more specifically, we focused on the personnel policy grid and possible need for possible adjustments. And we provided no decisions and no directions to the CAO. And that concludes the report out from the closed session, and the chair is looking for the motion to adjourn. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh. The committee does adjourn at
9:20.
9:20 p.m.
Thank you very much. Motion's on the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.